Did you know that every single conversation you have, every single day, is run by a set of invisible rules? And I'm not talking about grammar or spelling. I'm talking about a hidden code, a secret language that dictates what people really mean when they talk. And today, yeah, we're going to crack that code. Our story starts, of all places, in a courtroom back in 1973. A movie producer named Samuel Bronston is on the stand, under oath, and he gets asked a super direct question. Mr. Bronston, have you personally ever had a Swiss bank account? And this was his answer.
Now here's the wild part. Every single word he said was factually 100% true. The company did have an account there. So how on earth can you lie by telling the literal truth? That is the puzzle we are going to solve right now.
To figure this out, we need to dive into a fascinating field of linguistics called pragmatics. You know, pragmatics is all about the meaning that you won't find in a dictionary. It's the stuff that lives between the lines, the meaning that comes from context, from who is speaking, and when and why. Okay, so here's the first big idea you gotta get. Any sentence has two layers of meaning. First, there's the at-issue meaning. That's the literal, on-the-surface stuff. But then there's the non-at-issue meaning. And that's where all the interesting stuff happens. It's the subtext, the hint, the implied meaning.
And boom, here's our first major clue. What Bronston did wasn't a lie. It was something way more clever, a perfectly crafted implicature. He suggested an answer to the question. He implied, no, I personally never had an account, without ever actually saying those words.
But that just leads to an even bigger question, right? How do we all just understand these hidden meanings? For implicatures to work, it means we must all be playing by the same secret rulebook, even if we have no idea that we are. So what is this rulebook? Well, a philosopher named Paul Grice actually figured it out. He called it the cooperative principle. And it's a really simple but powerful idea. Deep down, we all assume that when people talk to us, they're trying to be cooperative. They're trying to work with us to have a successful conversation. So, what's in this rulebook? Okay, rule number 1 is the maxim of quality. And it's pretty simple. Just be truthful. Don't say things you know are false, and don't make stuff up you can't back up. We just expect people to be honest. It's foundational. Next up, the maxim of quantity. This one's all about giving the right amount of information. You know, not too much, not too little. And this is the rule Bronston bent. By giving a true but not fully informative answer, he implied he had nothing else to say on the matter of his personal accounts. Then you've got the maxim of relation, which is maybe the easiest one to get. Be relevant. Stay on topic. If we're talking about our favorite movies, don't just randomly start describing your breakfast. Keep it related to what's going on. And finally, there's the maxim of manner. This one is all about how you say what you say. The idea is to be clear, to be brief. Don't be intentionally confusing or ambiguous. You know, just make it easy for the other person to understand you.
But, and this is where it gets really, really cool, sometimes we break these rules on purpose. When you're trying to deceive someone, like you tell an outright lie, you're violating a maxim. But when you break a rule so obviously that you want the other person to notice, you're flouting it. And that's how we create things like sarcasm or irony.
For instance, check this out. If someone says they went to Toronto and you sarcastically reply, "No, Toronto, Saskatchewan?" You're breaking the rule of truthfulness, the maxim of quality. But it's so obviously false that everyone knows you're not trying to lie. You're flouting the rule to imply, duh, obviously I mean Toronto, Ontario. What a silly question.
So, if we're all following this secret rulebook, it helps to think of conversation as less of a script and more of a collaborative game. Seriously, the goal isn't to win, but for everybody who's playing to work together to build a shared reality, piece by piece. The game board for this is what linguists call the common ground. The best way to think about it is like a shared scoreboard of facts. It's the collection of all the things that everyone in the conversation agrees is true. And with every sentence, we're trying to add to it.
So when you say something simple, like, "It's a beautiful day," you're making a move in the game. You're proposing a new fact. The other person can then either agree, disagree, or ask you about it. And if they agree, bam, that fact gets added to your shared scoreboard. The common ground gets updated.
Okay, I know this might all seem a little abstract. Hidden rules, game boards, who cares, right? Well, it turns out that understanding this stuff has huge, life-changing consequences in the real world. I mean it.
Let's go back to the courtroom. Bronston's clever implicator saved him from a perjury conviction because what he literally said was true. But look at this other case. A man said, "Give me a lawyer, dog," and the court ruled it wasn't a clear request for a lawyer. And get this, in Israel, a court decided that sending emojis like these in a text message showed an intent to rant, making it legally binding. Wild, right?
And this goes way beyond the legal system. Understanding these hidden rules is absolutely crucial for understanding neurodiversity and for having more empathy for the different ways that people communicate, especially when we talk about autism.
You see, for many neurotypical people, figuring out these implicatures feels automatic. We just get it. But for some autistic people, it can be a constant, draining effort to figure out what someone really means. As this person shared, that process of trying to decode all the possible hidden meanings can be absolutely exhausting.
So, we've cracked open this hidden rulebook that's been guiding our conversations for centuries. But as we communicate more and more through screens, it raises a whole new question. We've learned the rules for talk, but what are the new rules for these? What's the implicature of a thumbs-up emoji or a praying hands? That's the new game, and we're all figuring out the rules together.